hopefully. That's us, we're live. So everybody, we're going to be chatting away about veganism. Today I'm actually talking to Swag Vegan, so if you haven't checked out his channel, please go over and check him out. So I'll start off with you if you want to just introduce yourself to everybody, what obviously your vegan story and such likes.
Yeah, well, it's thanks very much for having me on, Tommy. It's a pleasure to meet you for the first time. It's brilliant. So yeah, my name's Swag Vegan. I run a tiny little channel called Swag Vegan. I'm not swag, but I am vegan. So I just talk about my own vegan journey, really. I've done videos about how I became vegan in the past. So if it's okay, I'll run through that now with you, just to give everybody an idea of how I came to veganism, really, because it's such a big thing now, isn't it? Well, it's emerging, it's getting there.
It's been exponential in the last few years. I even know that like, a few years ago when I went vegan, you don't get half the amount of products that you get now. It's amazing.
Absolutely. I've just been out for breakfast this morning to a cafe in a town nearby me, and there you go, vegan breakfast on the menu and vegan section on the menu as well.
Brilliant.
So yeah, essentially what was happening, you know, I'd eaten meat pretty much all my life, you know, since I went to school. My mum fed me a vegetarian diet before then, and then I went to school, saw other kids eating it and sort of said, you know, oh, can I try that? And that's how it goes, isn't it? Culture.
That's it. It's basically we're kind of indoctrinated into this lifestyle because our parents have done it, their parents have done it, so it's just seen as natural, so we don't know any better.
Absolutely. So a couple of years ago, Christmas Eve 2015, my wife had bought a crown of turkey. I'd bought a joint of beef. So I'd taken this beef out of the fridge on Christmas Eve to wash it and prepare it for the next day. And I unwrapped it and just had this almost like epiphany moment and thought, oh my God, this is a chopped up cow's leg, you know. And from then on, I thought, I don't want to eat meat anymore. You know, it's just like that. I wasn't planning it. I didn't expect it. It just kind of happened. So I thought, okay, well, this animal's died now, so I better honor its death. So I went ahead, prepared it, cooked it, ate it. But I said to myself, in the new year now, I want to give up meat. So, you know, I had my relapses, you know, because it's a big change, isn't it, for everybody? And I think that's something that it's a big thing that we need to be patient and tolerant with people and complimentary of their successes.
That's what I was going to say to you. That's why I'm not always advocating for people for abolitionism, because I think for some people that's just not possible. And I think if we're going to help people, we've got to be empathetic, we've got to be compassionate, and we've got to basically congratulate them in making steps to go vegan, because not everybody can just do it overnight, unfortunately.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, myself, you know, I'll explain it now. You know, for me to transition from a previous omnivore to a full dietary vegan took 5 months, you know. Yeah. And that was with all the positive will in the world, you know. It's because it's about education as well. So I made the decision to give up meat. Came to around Lent time. My kids' little local Catholic school. We're not particularly Catholic, although my wife is from Brazil. She comes from a Protestant family in Brazil, which is pretty unusual. But they go to the local school just because it's the nearest one to us. But so we're always talking about giving something up for Lent, you know. Even if you're not religious, it's a good thing to do just for your own mental clarification that, you know, we all rely so much on things that we don't necessarily need.
Definitely.
So I thought, well, that's it. That's the perfect opportunity to give up meat. I also decided to give up alcohol for Lent that year as well. So I went ahead with the meat, and pretty much since then I haven't eaten any meat. And then I was at work one night and there was some chocolates on the table, and someone came through and someone said, oh, do you want a chocolate? And this person said, oh, no, thanks. And my colleague said, oh, yeah, aren't you? And it just kind of sowed the seed in my head. And I thought, oh, yeah, veganism. And I started looking online, seeing various different YouTube channels of people that were vegan, even though their channel was not about veganism.
Right.
People like, I don't know if you've heard of Ralph Smart, Infinite Waters.
I watch him, yeah, he's inspirational, and he's brilliant.
And he talks obviously a lot about his veganism as well within his life story. So it just got me thinking about it. So I started watching other things, and I started to see, your Freelies and Jurian Riders, and thought, okay, more about this, guilt shaming, fat shaming, all about, isn't it supposed to be about compassion?
Exactly.
Because for me, that's what it was. It was this realization that here I'm holding like a kind of a dismembered piece of an animal's body, and I value like freedom, liberty, empathy and compassion, and so if I value freedom, this cow didn't choose its fate, did it? And you don't necessarily even have to be like an animal lover. You can just acknowledge the basic fundamental right to life.
Well, you look at James Aspey, even he said he didn't even like animals at all. He's transitioned, but like he said, he didn't want anybody to, obviously, whether it be human or animal, to suffer just so he could thrive.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, as you've said, to use the word thrive, I think there's so many more examples out there now. People like Hedge Herbivore, Thunder Bay personal trainer Logan Blake. Guys that are really living to the max on this, proper whole food plant-based lifestyle. I know not everybody can, as you've said earlier. Lots of people are going to find it difficult to transition straight to veganism from a diet that they've lived on all their life and they've been culturally involved in all their life,
That's it. And like I've always said as well, the supermarkets and such likes, they don't correlate the animal that's on the plate. They call it beef and they call it chicken and they put it in breadcrumbs and everything. That's why young kids, they automatically get the connection. They see that it is the animal on the field, which is absolutely amazing. I've seen it a lot lately. Little kids, 5, 6, 7 years old, sometimes 10 years old, even get out doing activism. So
I had a weird one because my kids are not vegan. Just because like I said, this epiphany it happened to me, and I think intuitively, I think it's probably like that for a lot of people. It happens to an individual. They suddenly have this awakening and think, oh my God, this is what I've been doing and this is what I want to stop. But of course, just because it happens to you, it doesn't mean that it's going to happen to your brother or your husband or your mum or your dad and it takes time for people to adjust to the fact that you've had this revelation in your life as well. So it takes people time to catch up.
I think so as well. Family usually are the kind of last to actually get your message, because usually you find that that's where you kind of meet the most resistance. And my opinion for like kids and such likes, I think it's best just to always let them grow up and make their own decisions, because I think sometimes that we kind of expect everybody to go vegan, or we try to make everybody go vegan, but that just doesn't happen. I mean, I was hearing Joey Carbstrong talk the other week there, and he was talking about the kind of vegan point system type thing, where you can be hearing a chat for somebody can maybe drop something in the chat talking about how cows get slaughtered, and you can be that kind of last chat, and that'll obviously turn them vegan. But like he says, don't always beat yourself up. Don't think you have to turn everybody vegan, because that just doesn't happen. We've all got our own journey, and we'll all get there eventually, but we've all got kind of different paths that we've got to get there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We've all got a different life situation, isn't it? And it kind of reflects in YouTube circles how we're all able to contribute in different ways and in different capacities and different amounts of time. Like, I know Ellie from Phlegmface has made videos like that, saying how she'd love to make more content and put it out, but she's busy. We all have a life outside of this.
Exactly. I think sometimes vegan activism and such likes, it can be really, really draining, especially on your mental health wise. There's a lot of people suffering with depression, PTSD, because there's only so much suffering that you can actually intake. It's a bit like Joey Carbstrong talks about when he says, when you eat suffering, you become suffering. But it's the same with vegan activism as well. And sometimes you've got to be kind to yourself as well, and
yeah,
realise that it can take over your life in some ways as well.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I confess, you know, my journey's coming around so slowly. I haven't even been to a save vigil yet. I'm constantly, because of where I am, I'm about 2 hours from sort of the northwest of England, where I could actually realistically attend some event like that. But that's on my agenda for this year. I am checking out the Save website just for things that might be possible for me to go to, because I work shifts, so my availability is different all the time. And you know, even with making YouTube videos, it's really difficult to find the time sometimes to get in there. And then sometimes you think, I really want to put something out, but you can't quite formulate it in your head how you want to get your message across, and
sometimes you get this kind of mental block, and then other days you'll get something that'll run through your head, and you'll batter out 4 videos. Something inspires you. That's what happens. But talking about vegan activism, like I say, this is a form of activism. Just being on YouTube or anything, I always say to people, you don't need to be standing outside the slaughterhouse gates to be a vegan activist. Just find what you can bring to veganism, but whether that be vegan cooking, whether that be personal training, anything at all that you can actually inspire people through your vegan lifestyle. You don't need to be standing outside the slaughterhouse. That's what I always tell people. And I think it's a lot of people kind of look at people and they say, oh, well, if you're not doing anything for the vegan, if you're not a vegan activist. But that's absolutely nonsense. Just every single day being vegan, you're doing a lot for the veganism, saving animals every single day. And I think that kind of discourages people, because they think to themselves, oh, I've got to be standing outside the slaughterhouse, or I'm no better than somebody that's... That's just wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I don't... You know, that was part of my thing when I started seeing some of the more, you know, sort of hardline vegan content, when it started to make me question, you know, isn't this kind of missing the point of it all?
Yeah.
Because for me, you know, once I fully embraced the idea and made the move, you know, and for me, it was giving up cheese. That was the hard bit. The meat was no problem, the cheese. And funnily enough, I've been talking to my wife about this week, because we had a conversation a couple of weeks ago, and I said, you know, casein, casomorphine, and she was like, oh yeah. And then this week we were having a discussion, and she went and physically researched it herself, and she discovered it. Oh yeah, there's this chemical, this protein within the cheese, and it's addictive. And she said to me this morning, you know, and it comes back to what you say about family. When you've got someone very close to you telling you something, it's easy for you to dismiss it. But when you physically research it for yourself and you discover this stuff and you think, yeah, what he said is true.
It's kind of like my wife and such. Obviously, my wife's going through a lot of treatment for cancer. I try to kind of educate her as much as I possibly can, and she's making steps. She was vegetarian all her life until she actually suffered with cancer.
All right, okay.
And the doctors obviously told her that she needed red meat and she needed milk for calcium and iron. I try to educate as much as possible, but it's like the same old thing. People always believe the professionals, and at the end of the day, I just try to let her make her own mind up, and hopefully somewhere down the line she'll get it.
Yeah, and absolutely, and it's the same when we were talking about my kids earlier, because we had this moment last week. We were in the shop looking at the pet food section, because we have guinea pigs, you see. Yeah. My kids have 2 little guinea pigs. They were rescue guinea pigs and everything. I know that it's a huge issue within the vegan paradigm, is the pet ownership issue, you know. And I tend to take a more centrist approach to most things, only because, you know, for me, veganism's for everyone.
It should be inclusive rather than exclusive, and that's where I think we've been going wrong. We've been trying to make it exclusive.
You know, and obviously, you know, if you're going to say I'm vegan but I eat meat, it's a bit like, okay, maybe, you know, maybe you're misunderstanding the point. But yeah, we should still celebrate when people are trying their best.
Yeah.
When they're doing something rather than nothing, even though you might say to someone, well, vegans don't eat meat. but you know, it's still acknowledging, you know, people's positive efforts rather than you know, people who just don't care and use that as their reasoning for not wanting to engage with the process, at least.
Exactly. It's the same with me. Obviously, I've got dogs, I've got cats and such. My dogs aren't vegan, and to me, I've done it through the vet. The vet's told me that he says they basically, he doesn't believe that they should be vegan. So at the end of the day, I think as well, it's a hard one, because you think to yourself, I'm still in some way I'm contributing to animal cruelty down the line. But at the end of the day, I think not owning pets, but they're my family. So it's about me doing what I know is best for them. And that's what I think, that's a big part of it as well.
Yeah, and they're difficult dilemmas to deal with. When I started out my channel, it took me a long time to get into the process of making videos, but I came up with this series called Vegan Splinter, Confessions of a Proto/Intentional Vegan.
I remember watching that, yeah.
Because I know is Don Bauer calls himself pro-vegan, doesn't he?
Yeah, that's it.
And I love the honesty about it. You know, he supports veganism. He just doesn't feel that he's in a position to call himself vegan. And you know, we could all argue that case, couldn't we? You know, it's as you say, it's those degrees and levels of veganism, and you know, I appreciate the fact that some people are in different situations and are able to go that step further.
Exactly. Yeah. I think there's a lot of factors. There's health, there's finances, there's, whatever busy lifestyle you've got. It's a tough one. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Because yeah, we don't live in a vacuum.
Exactly, and
that's
it. And like I always say, to me, I just think I don't know about always calling yourself vegan. I think it's just about doing the best you possibly can to limit the cruelty to obviously the animals and to your contributing factor to the planet as well. That's really what it's all about.
Yeah. And that's how I see it, kind of within, say, for instance, now my family situation. Like I say, we're in the pet food aisle, and the kids see this bag of pig's ears for dogs, and they were like, "Is that really pig's ears?" And it's like, "Yeah, it is." And they were like really weirded out by it, you know. And it's like that's the reality of the situation. You know, they're very young, 8 and 10, my kids. Then later on, we were at home, and my eldest said to me, "Dad, did you know that actually some places in the world they actually eat guinea pigs?" And I said, "Yeah." And I said, "Yeah, they do, and it's sad, isn't it?" I said to her, "How does it make you feel?" You know, and she said, "Oh, sad." And so I said, "You know, what about big pigs?" And she said, "When I saw those pigs' ears in the shop today, it made me feel sad." You know, so it was just allowing her the space to feel those feelings and responses in herself. There's no point me saying, "Oh, you know, we're going vegan now," because, you know, if my wife was 100% at the same place as I am, she'd be on board with me, and we'd both have the same education level with which to say, "Now, you know, this is what we're going to do now." But until she has developed the skills almost that I have, and that she's able to do without cheese and do without milk and everything, you know, she doesn't eat meat, she doesn't like it. The kids hardly ever ask for it, you know. So
step over there already, really.
So it's a case of, you know, if I'm just going to say, well, veganism, and that's my bottom line, I'm just going to push them away, and they'll probably think, well, that's what veganism's all about. Whereas if I just stay with them day to day, talking about it, but not forcing it, not pushing it, eventually it will sink in. And I think that's the way, you know, I know that there's a time and place for like staunch hardline arguing. And as you say, you know, your slaughterhouse vigils, there's a time and place for all these different types of activism and approach to, you know, raising awareness, if you like. But within your own personal circles, you know, none of us like someone getting in our face and and telling us that what we're doing is out of order. You know, we've all got a natural ego and defense mechanism when it comes to that day-to-day life and just the hustle and bustle of making it through the day, really. So when someone's saying, no, you can't have that, you can't have that, you know, it's going to create resistance.
Exactly. You're going to want it more, and you're going to lead them straight back down it, because I always say as well, that I don't look at anybody and say I'm any better or judge anybody, because if anything, people should be judging me, because I used to work in the slaughterhouse, you know what I mean? I was a meat packer, so that's where I think I've always got a more compassionate look at people, and I know where they've came from, and I know that we're all good people. It's just we haven't got that connection, because it's like they're all saying, you don't know what you don't know because you don't know.
yeah, of course. Yeah, which was kind of, I know I'm diverting here, but I talked about that in my Februdairy video the other day about spirituality. You know, your brain is, you know, our brains are tiny within this cosmos, you know, and as you say, we know what we know, and what we don't know, we don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Are you doing more if I can get that out, Februdairy?
Yeah, I think you caught the one I did yesterday, the nuts about milk one. Yeah. So yeah, I am going to try and do one every day, just a short little Februdairy vlog, even if it's things like chocolate, like vegan chocolate, you know, products that would normally contain milk, but a vegan version of.
Yeah, well, see, when we're talking about Februdairy, there's actually an article just come up in Science Daily. It says bacteria in milk and beef linked to rheumatoid arthritis.
Okay.
It says a strain of bacteria found in milk and beef may be a trigger for developing rheumatoid arthritis in people who are genetically at risk, according to a new study from University of Central Florida.
Yeah, I mean, it's there's a lot of stuff around, like fruits and vegetables supposedly causing arthritis as well. So the inflammatory effects, but you know, I have to say, that's one of the things about coming to veganism is it's really kind of forced me to kind of up my game on these things and actually look into, you know, science, nutrition, ecology, and I'm still learning this. Hey, sorry, Tommy, can you speak? Because I can't hear you.
I says, yeah. You've always definitely got to, because you don't know where somebody's going to start an argument with you, and you've got to have comebacks as well and know your facts.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's part of the difference. Intuitively, I know that, you know, fruits and vegetables, and I have to say, you know, I'm not the best fruit eater in the world. I like veg, and I like a lot of rice and quinoa and lentils and stuff like that. So you know, I'm probably more on the starchy side of the diet at the moment, but I kind of know in my heart that fruit is the way to go. But then again, it's different levels, different, you know, what can people achieve? You know, can you really expect people to go from, you know, meat and to veg to, you know, papayas, mangoes and pineapples? You know,
probably in a country like Thailand or Australia, that's probably feasible because of the weather conditions and such like, but the climate over here really isn't adjusted to that. So that's why I always say to people, I can advocate they try out mock meats and such like.
Yeah.
A lot of vegans say, oh, really, should you be eating mock meats, because that means that you obviously love the texture of meat. But let's be honest about it, we all did love meat, we just don't love the cruelty that's involved in it. We don't want to die for that.
Yeah, and I think, you know, the products that are available are becoming much more realistic and authentic. There's some, I forget the range of it, but you can get them in Holland and Barrett. They're like mostly made of onions, these burgers, and they're so realistic, and you put some of that Violife cheddar on stuff. Yeah.
It's absolutely amazing. Like I say, you even get vegan ribs now and everything as well. Far bit. You get the Beyond Burger that's obviously made with the beetroot juice that bleeds. I think.
Yeah.
That would probably gross me out, to be honest, but.
Yeah, it's not a huge thing for me. Like things like those Quorn hot and spicy burgers, Linda McCartney sausages, and you know, I can cope with that. Again, junk food wasn't a massive thing for me. You know, I like my bean and vegetable sauces, my lentil soups and things like that. Anyway, So, you know, that's the thing for me. I kind of count myself lucky because my mum did always push that kind of vegetarian diet for me. You know, that I wasn't used to having just chips and beans for dinner. It was always like vegetable stews and bean stews. And although I may have thought, oh, this is a bit boring, eventually you just put some black pepper on it, spice it up a bit, and it tastes great with a bit of like bread and marge dipped in it. And away you go. You know, it's not. So for me, I count myself as kind of privileged because the dietary aspect was an easy thing to do.
Yeah. I think that's where a lot of people kind of go wrong. I say sometimes they jump into veganism and they've not educated themselves enough, or they come in for a lifestyle of like 3 times a day meat and such likes. Which
absolutely, yeah. No, I mean, I remember actually I went to university in Dundee.
right.
And I was sharing a flat with a guy from Glenrothes, right? And you know, he's very into his politics. He was studying social geography and things like that. And he always used to say, "Oh, you know, I'm real left wing and everything," but still, you know, he was into, "Oh, you know, I couldn't conceive of a meal without meat." And that is, it's just our culture, isn't it? You know,
exactly.
It's how people have grown up.
Yeah, I was brought up with a farm straight over the side to me and one over the back. And one of my friends actually, his parents actually run the farm and such. I always remember the milk trucks going down and the animals getting taken away and such likes. And then I just never get the connection because they always looked as if they'd been looked after and such likes. And
yeah, absolutely. And I think I was talking to my wife on the way to this cafe earlier today, and I was saying that because like the transformation at the ideological level to veganism is almost so revolutionary, I was saying that very often it's difficult to kind of retro-empathize with your previous self and with people that have grown up in this culture. And you got to remember that, you know, only 100 or so years ago, that was normal.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Even though you could argue that it shouldn't be normal, it was, you know, and lots of people did require, you know, living off the land and living off the animals of the land to earn their living and to, you know, to earn their keep, really.
I think that's where the kind of, I don't know if you've seen it, the Vegan Society actually put out an article the other day saying about they kind of basically hit back at vegans because of the death threats and such like to farmers. And
right,
I just think that was, I don't know, part of me thinks maybe that was probably a few vegans did that. Another part thinks of me, is it maybe an inside job with animal agriculture?
Right, yeah.
It's wrong on all levels because at the end of the day, you're never going to change people's perceptions. The only way you're going to do that is through education, right, and empathetic to them, because it's like a lot of people I know that's vegan, they say they want to shut down this slaughterhouse, they want to shut down that slaughterhouse, but that's not going to do you any good. At the end of the day, shutting down slaughterhouses is not going to stop animal agriculture. They're just going to, somebody's going to go elsewhere and buy their meat and such like. It's supply and demand. It's attacking that area. You want to start educating people. You want to start to show them that there's things out there that can help them go vegan and they've got options. You're not going to do that by shutting down slaughterhouses. That's just bad, really, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. And in terms of how veganism is perceived at the kind of global paradigm level, you know, when I was growing up, I'd heard of veganism. I kind of knew what it was. It was like this sort of fringe extension of vegetarianism where, as well as meat, you didn't eat their secretions. You know, I didn't really formulate it, but I kind of knew what it was. And then occasionally I'd meet a vegan. I did a video last year called "The First Vegan I Ever Met," and it was ironic.
It was a camping trip or something.
It was. We were going up to the Isle of Skye, and I'd made a bunch of cheese sandwiches, and I was handing them around. And she looked at me and she said, "Oh, it's not very vegan, is it?" And I was like, "Oh shit!" And so I always keep that in my mind. And you know, I was out last summer walking past somebody's house that I knew, and they had a barbecue chicken thing going on, and they offered me some, and I said, "Oh no, thanks, I'm vegan." And they were like, "Oh, sorry, mate." And it's like, "No, it's no worries. You know, you're offering to share with me. you know, I appreciate the gesture. It's just I'll respectfully decline. That's all. No shade. You know, it's just letting you know, and that's it. It's just letting people know and sowing those seeds in people's minds, and eventually you will have people, like I've mentioned in some of my videos earlier this month, you know, people coming up to you saying, "Oh, are you vegan? Such and such says that you're vegan. I've seen What the Health on Netflix, and you know, I'm interested in how to do it."
Shows that they're actually thinking about it. So that's when it's obviously good, because they're obviously making the connection and they're just looking to you to obviously help them along. So,
and with it becoming much more in the mainstream focus, more and more children are being born into a world and growing up in a world where this is a real thing that lots and lots of people are involved in. And it won't be seen as just this weird, ethereal, distant, peripheral kind of cult activity that people do. You know, it's just a bit like, this is what we do. You know, we look after ourselves, we look after everything else, and we look after the planet, as you know, to the best of our ability, you know.
I think that's why always when I'm out doing like vegan outreach and such, like, so I try and kind of gauge people's reactions to what kind of correlates to them. Like the thing but about behind me there, that's it, we're bored, like save the planet, save the people, save the animals.
Yeah.
I try and gauge what they're actually interested in. Are they more geared towards animals? Are they more geared towards saving their health? Are they more geared towards the planet? Then I try and kind of take it from there to kind of get them the connection, because let's be honest about it, we're quite a, how would you put it? We're all about ourselves, and we want to see what veganism can do for ourselves, and that's the sad reality, really.
Yeah. I mean, you know, even me coming online, you know, I had the idea after, like I say, I was kind of appalled by the fat shaming, guilt shaming thing that was going on. So I gave myself the ironic name of Fat Vegan. You know, so I used to have this slogan: "Hi, I'm fat vegan. I'm not fat, but I am vegan." And then eventually it dawned on me that maybe this wasn't going to be seen as the most culturally sensitive by everyone, even though it's a satirical joke. But it was meant to highlight the fact that, you know, being fat or not fat has got nothing to do with veganism. You know, being skin, you know, being whatever. So long as you're, you know, working towards veganism, that's what's important.
That is kind of the big problem about veganism. A lot of people obviously get hate on them because they say, "Oh, you can't be vegan because you're overweight." And especially one of my friends, and your friend as well, Losh Lemurian, she did that an awful lot. It's quite disgusting, really, because it's this characteristic and example that you should be lean and such, like absolutely nonsense. It's not about, part of it's health, but the biggest part of it is the animals, and that's what it should always be.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about this before coming on earlier on this morning, thinking about, you know, it's almost like this tripartite system, as you've got there in the background. You know, it's ourselves, you know, humanity, the animals, and the planet, and all of these things are important. And I think that's what happens, you know, when people, if they come to veganism for health, they then realize the ethical and ecological aspects of it. If they come to it from ethics, they then suddenly realize the health aspects. I didn't realize that vegan, you know, that a plant-based diet was truly the healthiest diet for people. Yeah. I just came to it from like an emotive, ethical standpoint, thinking I don't want to have anything to do with animal suffering anymore. And then all of a sudden, oh yeah, there's the animal agriculture impact on the environment as well. And so that draws in things like politics, science, nutrition, ecology, and you realize that veganism taps into everything, and there's something in there for everyone. And that's why I do believe that it really is for everyone.
Yeah, exactly. My kind of reason for obviously coming to veganism at the start, I'd wanted to be vegan for many years. Working in the slaughterhouse, I seen the suffering and such likes, but I would remember sometimes even crying, seeing like fetuses or babies lying, the carcasses of the cows, and I was still that turned off because I would see that and I would think to myself, oh, just not get the connection, and I would be going and straight after that eating a burger, eating a fish supper, everything like that. even in that slaughterhouse that I was working at, they actually used to use the meat in the cafe upstairs.
Yeah.
It's weird. And then suddenly one day you just get that little bulb. Suddenly you get a connection. And for me, obviously, at the start of it is I seen that it would really, really help my eating disorder and such likes. And then I thought to myself, wait a minute, further down the line, I get the connection, obviously, the animals and such likes. Then I became a vegan activist. And now that's what it's all about. It's about the animals, first and foremost.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for me, that's where my heart is. It's about, like I say, it's about that freedom aspect for them, honoring, at least it's that double-edged sword of liberty, isn't it? You know, I'm free so long as I don't impose upon your freedom. And, you know, because as humans, we have this cognitive ability which enables us to use tools to kind of carve out this niche in the ecosystem where we can keep ourselves safe. As you know, in Britain, we don't have wolves and bears anymore because we got rid of them. But in all, you know, all over the world, that's what we do. We create a safe space for ourselves where we say, this is where humans live. Beyond that, that's the wild, and everything's fair game in the wild, you know, even though people do take guns into the wild with them. But you know, I mean, that, you know, that's an interesting self-defense argument, isn't it? Is it, if you're going into their territory, is it fair for you to take a gun in to shoot them?
Exactly. Somebody actually made that argument the other day to me when I was doing vegan outreach. They said to me, but would it be okay to kill an animal if I was out in the wild and it attacked me? Well, in my opinion, I said, well, yeah, that is okay because that's you defending your life. That's the same as taking a life. It's, well, you're defending yourself, so that's a different scenario. But going out and hunting, that's
yeah, no, obviously, yeah. Obviously, hunting's a big no-no. But this is why I find it fascinating, because it does call on these kind of interesting ethical grey areas. Like, well, if you're going, even though you could say you've only shot them in self-defense, you know, you'd gone into their territory. So is it justified? How justified is it? You know, how much did you need to go into their territory? You know, if you're doing like a scientific expedition for a certain research into saving a particular species, then maybe you could justify it a little bit more than like, I'm going for a walk, you know?
Exactly. It's somebody also has said as well, aren't you stealing a fish's home because you're drinking water and such like? I say, I came back at them, I says, being vegan is not about taking an animal's habitat. It's not about taking its fur, its skin, its flesh for meat. That's what it's about. But you've got to have water to live. Sadly, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and you know, I mean, I'm not so sure about taking water being stealing a fish's habitat, because you know the water we get comes from the streams and the rivers.
Exactly.
Rather than the sea, isn't it? I know, you know, you've got freshwater fish and everything, but you know, the water cycle keeps going. So I
think you'll always get arguments.
You're
just pick to try and find something that they can get back at you for.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I find as a vegan, you've got to have that self-humility, that ability not to take yourself too seriously, and know that you're going to get all the jokes like, oh, get a stake down your neck or whatever, and you've got to accept that these are people that are just nowhere near the moment of realization and the moment of connection, and that they're just taking the piss. They're from their standpoint where eating meat is normal, so they're just having a little joke at you, really. And you've got to let it roll over your shoulders so that you can kind of save your energy for when there is an opportunity to speak to somebody who is near that level of coming to a point where they're going to be willing to listen and engage with the topic. Because those other people that are just going to take the piss, it's going to take them a little bit longer anyway. So just have a laugh with them. Don't worry about it. And then when the moment is right, you catch people off guard. So something little happens and they go, oh yeah, I've never thought about it that way.
Exactly. That is exactly what it's all about. Let's see, you've got to always remember as well that a lot of people, especially in like the dairy industry and like the slaughterhouses and such, like they're trying to defend themselves because they think that we're trying to take their jobs, and that is a hard one as well, because you don't want to see MD lose their job. You don't want to see people suffering and not being able to afford day-to-day necessities and such like. So it's trying to educate them and make them realise that there's other ways that they can earn money rather than having to have a victim at the end of it.
Yeah. And that's why I shouted out Ellie and Tim's video from the other week. That was
one, yeah. It was saying that we shouldn't be showing like graphic footage, obviously, things like the dairy industry. We should be showing them alternatives like plant-based milks like you're doing and such likes like that.
Yeah, you know, because again, to be inclusive, you know, you've got to be able to offer people alternatives. Exactly. Because as you say, for a lot of people, this is, you know, regardless of the ethical questions regarding it, it is people's livelihood. You know, that's how you earn your money, right or wrong. And you know, if you've been doing it all your life, for someone to come to you and say, look, you got to do something else, it's a bit like, well, maybe give me something else to do then.
Exactly.
You know, it's
I don't know if you actually seen that Victoria Derbyshire show the other day that Joey Carbstrong and obviously Earthling Ed was on. Like the farmer was talking about it, and she said, like, animals have got a certain purpose, like a sheep or a cow or a chicken or a pig.
Yeah.
Purpose, and other animals got a different purpose, but that is the way they kind of think. So
yeah.
And like she was saying, they were going to bed at night and they were worrying about what was going to happen to their animals or what was going to happen to their property and such things. I thought, do you really worry about the animals when they're getting led to that last 3 minutes before you bear witness when they're going to the slaughterhouse? So it's a weird cognitive dissonance that they have. I just don't understand it.
Yeah, well, we even use, I was thinking about this the other day, we use the expression livestock, don't we? You know, it's living goods, isn't it? It's, as you say, it's property. It's something that you're going to sell, but it's actually somebody's body, somebody's life. And it's just making that connection, isn't it? Realizing that there is an entity behind that different body, you know, because naturally we have some natural empathy with members of our own species, or at least we try to, and we hope to just extend that towards.
That's what I was going to talk about, like the kind of empathy like she was talking about. She says people are calling us things like rapists and murderers, and that is wrong to call anybody that, but at the same time they are doing that, you know. That's because they've got the empathy and they correlate that towards like the human form of that. Like you wouldn't, like we all know raping and murdering anything is absolutely wrong, and we're brought up that. But the animals, it's a different thing. We think we're not doing that. That's normal. They're there for food, kind of type thing.
Yeah, I mean, I have this thing. I don't know whether you're familiar with it at all. I think I've hinted towards it in a couple of my videos around nonviolent communication. It's this theory of communication developed by an American psychiatrist called Marshall Rosenberg. He actually died a couple of years ago, but he created this whole form of communication whereby we're able to express our needs, feelings, observations, and requests without judging wrong or good and bad. And you know, it's taken me a long time to kind of formulate this into some content that I'd actually like to put out there. But I think there's something valid within it for veganism when it comes to issues like this, where you're kind of negotiating with people that are going to be triggered.
That's actually like this book. I'll actually show you this one. It's the very same thing, actually. I'm about halfway through it. It's How to Create a World Pragmatic Approach by Tobias Leinart.
Right.
It's basically, it starts off kind of like, it shows you like bringing, he kind of puts it like bringing people down from the mountains. He says like the vegans are at the top of the mountain and you've got obviously the meat eaters at the bottom, and it shows you all these kind of approaches like compassion and such, like how to lead them up to the top of the mountain. It's absolutely great book. It really is.
I'll have to check it out.
I was actually thinking about doing kind of a video and talking about that, kind of do that as well, similar to what you're talking about.
So it's just incorporating different strategies that are maybe actually going to be able to connect with people rather than just alienate them. You know, that's you know, because as you know, vegan, you don't go vegan for yourself.
Exactly.
You go vegan because you think this is really important, and because you think it's really important, you want everybody else to come on board. We think, yeah, veganism can be, because you have to bear witness, and all of a sudden you're constantly aware of that. Oh, this has got cheese in it, that's got milk in it, and this stream of information that you weren't. It's like the Matrix, isn't it? That you weren't previously. Yeah. And you want that to stop suddenly, but there's also this amazing side to veganism where it does empower you. Like, I made some videos last year about how, for years I didn't vote. I was so politically alienated, but coming to veganism has actually got me out to the polling stations again and thinking, it's like that whole thing. If you don't take advantage of the few opportunities that the powers that be afford you, you can't really blame them if they take it away from you. Again, right or wrong, whether you're an anarchist or whatever and you don't believe in state authority, it's a bit like, if they're coming for you with the guns and the handcuffs, you're going to jail. They'll find you.
The Tories and such likes have been kind of bad for, obviously, their kind of laws recently, especially about animal agriculture and such likes, and
yeah.
been quite shocking, to be honest. I don't know if you've seen it, that Bill Gates, he's ploughed in £40 million to the animal agriculture, talking about making super cows and chickens.
Oh, right.
Similar to that Okia movie. It's basically like making a super cow and a super chicken, so it feeds more people per pound of meat and such.
Yeah.
Quite weird.
Yeah, very strange. Yeah, I mean, I've been obviously hearing little bits more about, the cultured meat and the lab meat going on now, and again, it's one of these other controversial issues within the movement, isn't it? It's like, yeah, great for pet food, for instance. This whole thing about, how far do you cater to people that are transitioning? What's really the benefit of having cultured meat where people can still have the experience of eating animal flesh, for want of a better word, without having to kill an animal for it? It's where do you draw the line?
There's still that kind of exploitation in it, in a way, because they're removing things like stem cells and such like.
Yeah.
There's quite a bit of exploitation there. So probably for somebody that is transitioning to vegan, that's a good option. But for vegans themselves, I would say that's an absolute no-no, because I don't think we'd want any well, we shouldn't really want any part of that, really.
Yeah, I personally wouldn't want to myself, and I would assume that most, as you say, vegans wouldn't want to, because they've got so used to it. When I walk past like the cooked meat section in the supermarket, it's really weird, because normally you'd think, you'd smell, like the roast chicken and the bacon and sausage rolls and things, and you think, lovely. But now it's weird. After a couple of years, it just turns my stomach.
Exactly. My wife would tell you, see, even now I walk past a butcher's, the smell hits me, and I actually feel physically sick.
Yeah. There's a butcher's in my town where, when I was younger, a friend of mine used to live. It's at this little alleyway at the side of a butcher's shop. So at the front, you don't really smell it, but when you walk up this alleyway, you get the smell coming out of the side door of the back, and it's putrid, and you wonder why it really is, and then nowadays, exactly why, once you've had the education. Tommy, I've got another hour, but I'm realizing we said about 45 minutes, but I'm just noticing it's been about an hour. So
it's been brilliant. We'll do this again. Definitely. We'll do a second part. It's been absolutely great chatting away. It really has.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure to meet you. And yeah, we could talk about this for hours, obviously.
Well, we'll get another stream going. We'll think of another topic, and everybody. So everybody, if you haven't already, please go and subscribe to Swag Vegan. Like he says, he isn't swag, but he is vegan. Thanks very much, mate. It's been absolutely great talking to you.
Wicked. Okay, so yeah, we'll sort something out again for another time, and I will, I'll
Anything
stay.
you want to say to anybody before you go?
Well, I think I've said all I did at the beginning, really. I just want to say thank you, Tommy, for having me on. And
Pleasure's all mine.
Yeah, it's been fun, and hopefully we'll do it all again over on my channel in a few weeks or a few months, whenever opportunity arises. And I'll be in touch with you on Twitter, as always.
Thanks very much. Speak to you soon.
Take care, man. All the best, everyone. Bye-bye.